Thank you. Thank you very much, Tim. Thank you. And thank you for PMI UK and for everyone, everyone who decided to stay until the very last session here of the summit. And of course, if if you are still here, and I see that's around 90% still there, that already tells me two things. That first of all, you are committed, and this is the key for our success. And of course, you are looking for something that goes more deeper, at least a little bit deeper, then yeah, we should care about sustainability. And this is why I will not get here with any one of you why sustainability matter. It would be waste of time with you. This is why I'm going directly to get a little bit more interesting approach is how we have really this sustainability as project leader. And this is why also the title mentioned by Tim, why it's as operating system. Tim mentioned it. I'm engineering with a background, computer science, electronics. Operating system are important. And for us, just you will see it during this closing keynote, just combining the things what we are discussing. It means we will shift our conversation here in this around 40 to 45 minutes together from which is the best framework, which is the best tool, to more something more fundamental is the operating system, and especially for us as a leader, as project professionals, more than what are the methods, what is our rituals, and of course, what are our dashboards. And of course, most of the things what we love discuss as professional is agile versus hybrid versus predictive, PMBOK evolutions, what is the differences between 6th editions, 7th, P5, or ESG reporting, AI. It was great what I hear today about these different elements. But for me, I will approach it a little bit as we started this summit this morning with the very nice metaphor from Murph or Eduardo from the e-traveling or the gardening. And this is this point what we have together today. It means just all these elements what I mentioned as topic we are discussing, we love discussing, are more or less so-called application. They are visible, but they are building on a so-called operation system. This is the invisible. Joe Dobson, early this day in the summit, was trying to convince us how to make sustainability invisible. And this is a little bit also one element about it. It means it's really very, very fundamental part. It means this operating system for leadership is directly concerning us or our organization, of course, but this is also a little bit the points defining what we really reward or punish, how we are labeling a success, and even what gets escalated and what just gets ignored, what we are willing to sacrifice. It means, let me just say this very openly, I will just try to have this keynote as a mirror, as we try just to go together, try to discover how we are seeing this, and what are some elements from the experience the last 25 years I had reflected here. So, and this is journey of the next 35 minutes. We'll go a little bit about different elements from the operating system, why it's matter now, from some tools, how we redefine together, even with the PMI, how we redefine success, but also how are the simple points to just redefine our operating system, to go a little bit more behind this comfort zone, what we know there. And this is a little bit the point, what I'm trying to present today. And I will start again. Always, the last 20 years in different areas, in different environment, even here in Ethiopia, and before in Jordan, before in Lebanon, before this in Saudi Arabia, and different countries in Europe. The most question that I have, if I have, or I start a transformation journey or change journey, was always why no? Why we are doing this? No, we have a functioning system. Everything is fine. Let us just focus on our time, scope, and costs. We need to finish on time. We need just to get our outputs as defined, and let us just go there. And of course, we know the English proverb saying is that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. In the past, this is also very nice effect. We are as project leaders, team leaders, still not possible to get back in the time, but we can really use the opportunity. The second best time is now. This is why we are together. This is also reflected in your commitment, as I mentioned at the beginning, staying until now with us. This is the part what we need to do it. And of course, here I am aware, totally aware, having a lot of programs on my table, different projects and activities. It will be not about more work. It's more about reframing how we see the work we already do. Every choice, every decision point, every conversation is a leveler that we can move closer to the long-term value, to this what I'm saying and pushing to sustainability by default. Of course, PMI, GPM understood this shift, and this is why we will see it in the new guidelines in the PM book that this shift is there. And this is why we will explore it together. But maybe before getting there, adding my turning point, one element in the introduction, what Tim was mentioning, was missing, and especially here. Why I'm here, why I moved from the engineering focus to the 10 years implementing and coding the first LLMs, the AI, what we call these days EIs, to a project manager and program manager later on in different countries. I come from a small island called Kirkina, somewhere, of course, in South Tunisia. And this was really a small village in this Kirkina, somewhere in the Mediterranean Sea. And there, of course, it's really very quiet, untouched by the time, the island there. And here in Kirkina, just a point, sustainability was never something what we defined. It was just how the people lived there. Nothing was waste. Even fishing net were handed over and passed down for generations. But of course, it was what we are knowing at the moment as sustainability by default. It was an instinct, not a policy. And this is the point where, over the years, especially in the summer, I'm spending the few days of my holidays there, I really saw and watched how this instinct fade. And of course, plastic packaging and disposable products came here and there. And this was my turning point. This was my turning point where I realized, okay, sustainability can never be assumed. It must be designed into how we are working, how we are leading, and how we are measuring success. And this is why, for us also today, I will go more in the direction of how we are leading. And this is the journey where I invite you just to follow a little bit up with me the next steps, the next ideas, and just to try to see how we are working there, how we are doing this. So this is why I will start with the definition of this operating system, our own operating system, leadership, and our leadership, and how we are working there. And of course, the first assumption here that we are functioning exactly like an operating system. It means what this means. Eduardo, in the opening keynote, one of the opening keynotes speech was mentioning, especially also with Jonathan, how nice when we have these metaphors as part of our journey there. Even Jonathan get one step forward, mentioning that it will be nice to have different metaphors within PMI, what we can pick, apply, understand, and even for the next generation, easier to understand these different metaphors. Again, just what we mean with this leadership as an operating system. Of course, most of projects succeed or fail on code we never see. Means I'm also in the same situation. Sometimes even we have a successful result of the project, there's still a feeling that it was not 100% done. And this is why I get tried to reflect it here. Okay, what is our point here? Just think about your mobile phone, your smartphone or your laptop. You will see different icons. We know the applications, programs, tools. And of course, you can also install new one, delete old ones, update them regularly. I know that some colleagues are having a ritual looking for new updates daily for the one or the other application. Even some applications stop working if you don't have the latest update on it. And this is a little bit the point where we are working at. All these applications are sitting on the top of the operating system. This operating system is defining how they are running, how they are working, what they can access, what are the settings, what is the privacy there, and how they behave when things go wrong. Sometimes we have it. And this is why here in our professional world, we can see it in this way. Our applications are more or less our methods. It means our agile frameworks, scaled agile configuration, our PM book, based methodology and playbooks, our P5s for the GPM, but even our AI dashboards and decision support systems. I know that it was also discussed in the one or the other session about how to integrate these AI systems in our daily work. And this is exactly the point. But of course, these applications give us more or less the structure of how we are working. This is important for us. But of course, here, getting to the operating system is the hidden code. And here we are starting to dig a little bit deeper in what I'm mentioning, the operating system for leadership. The invisible code, and I'm coming now back to Joe Dobson and the second opening keynote. Invisible code is made of our beliefs, what is success means exactly, our incentives, clear. This also what gets me promoted or punished. This is also another element, especially in different cultures. We have different approaches with it. But of course, fear, what I am afraid to say or not in the meeting, and the reporting, and the retrospectives. And of course, the last one are the norms. Our norms, what do we quietly tolerate when deadlines are tight, what we are more or less okay with and what not. And when we are just saying this change, when we say sustainability is a priority, and at the same time, the operating system will whispers, don't miss your deadline, don't upset this powerful stakeholder, and of course, don't blow the budget, don't ask uncomfortable questions to the steering committee. This is what our operating system is always whispering when we have a transformation or change. It's always there. And of course, here you can see the conflict. And this is also the part where you can just have, at the end, you are patching new sustainability applications, new metrics, new roles, new checklists. Of course, you will just put it on this operating system, but of course, the operating system you are working on is written for a total different world. Cheap externals, procurement, stable climate, predictable social contracts, and a narrow definition of value. This is how, until now, a lot of our leadership operating systems are programmed. And of course, here, our sustainability challenge is not primarily a tool or a tools of challenge. Joel mentioned this in the discussion with Lucilia as a very nice element, is an operating system challenge. Until this OS operating system change, all our sustainability applications will be fragile. They will depend from us, from heroes. And this is the point where we will see how we get to it, how we will change it. Of course, I will not criticize the one or the other. It means especially with the different parts of our experience, and most of you are very experienced in this system, but you will ask yourself in the direction, okay, I am changing my methods, my tools each 3, 4, 5 years, even the last few years is becoming faster. And this is, we adapt ourselves. This one is not a criticism, how we are doing this. This is the human part, is more an invitation to look on your operating system, in your own leadership, just to have a look on it. And this, I will just give you some elements how to look on it. The first one will be just few old operating system rules. Yeah, we must just retire. And of course, the first one, we hear, I think today this in a lot of sessions, it will be our definition of success. When we just still have success on time, on budget, and in some areas on scope, this rule is not really supporting us to have a new operating system. This is remaining in the direction that we are still working with the old operating system. The next one, we see it also often, especially in this changing world, is cost. Sustainability is a cost center, is a constraint. We cannot just afford it. It's important, but additional efforts slow us down. It will be complicating all procurement. It makes the approvals harder. This is what I'm hearing a lot. Of course, the journey is needed to have the changes in different areas, but it's just important to keep in mind these old rules will not be future-proofed. And the last one, most probably also, you hear it here and there, that the real sustainability work is messy. It brings new voices, and of course, it reveals sometimes uncomfortable trade-offs when just to trade. And of course, will be a little bit a challenge, sometimes powerful elements. And of course, it asks us to admit that we don't fully know the outcome. I will come at the end of this keynote speech about one element, what we sometimes really mistaken about our role, what we are doing here and how we are doing this. But of course, just keep in mind these 3 rules. If these rules run the show, sustainability will remain as a side quest. This will never be our default, sustainability by default elements. And this is just to support you in this direction, how we get there. when we can just have very simple diagnostic questions for your own project to try to find out in which direction you are. Ask the impact question. It means it's just very simple one. Every decision filtered through at least 3 of the P5 guidelines: people, planet, and prosperity. Of course, product and process are an additional element there, but at least we just try to implicitly run it through these 3 filters, but of course, also extending the time horizon. It means what will be happened when we close the project? Everything's fine. We have the very nice closure pictures, especially in my field. We have always very nice pictures and social posting in the beginning, maybe in between somehow, and at the end. But think about later, about 5 years after the project, depending from your project, what you are doing. Of course, I'm in the IT sector. 5 years after a project in the IT or in the software engineering is a very long time. But just think about this. And of course, very important element about the data and the local knowledge. And of course, this must be as a first class input. This is the ownership. This is what we just reflect later on and see as results, especially when we are going in these projects. And of course, every project is a sustainability project in some dimension. We need just to change the lenses, how we are seeing this, how we are going with this, in which direction. And of course, when we ask these 3 questions, we can come to the level that sustainability doesn't need defending. It will be a default assumption. As I mentioned from my island, it is something what we don't define. We will just live it, live this sustainability. And of course, this is a shift, mindset shift, burden shift. Until now, leaders must justify why something is exempted rather than sustainability, constantly have to justify the relevance. And this is the point where it's a journey together. It's not a very fast, feasible part, but it's a very nice journey to go, especially when we see the results coming, the results getting step by step in the direction of sustainability by default. But when just asking this question, let us just try to flip the picture. It means we have seen what we need to retire, how we ask ourselves to have the diagnostic, but what is the minimum code for every future ready project, especially leaders must run? We have a code. And of course, I had a question earlier about the MVP for adding sustainability. This is one element here. It means when we just have these filters, how our decisions are run through the system, we can define it into very simple pillars. The first one, and I'm asking you to move a little bit in the late evening, your head to the right or to the left. Of course, we are going more in the stewardship over delivery. It means this is also think about it, about your leadership style, how you are putting the projects, programs, especially if you are a program manager or a portfolio manager, PMO, also one part of it. And of course, systems over silos. Silos, we have it. We are working on it. We have different projects, activities, and different definitions for it. And we're mostly working in these small areas. We need just to think about these systems. And it's possible. It's possible. We have some experiences there. We have the nice results if we are thinking in systems and change the systems. From the other side, of course, when we just hear what Joel was mentioning earlier, regeneration should be over reduction. It means we can work on the reduction. We can try to minimize the waste, minimize the different anti-sustainability activities, but we need just to think a little bit further. The next frontier, what are regeneration activities? How we integrate it to be more in this direction? And of course, the last one is, of course, our role. I had the impression as I saw my first job description 25 years ago in Germany that I will be a firefighter as project manager. And of course, here also one element, just I encourage you to put you in this position, just foresight over firefighting. Of course, we can open a discussion about exactly this point, how everyone is working there. But I saw, and I'm still seeing some of my project managers, team leaders, they are just complaining that they are trying to get out from this firefighting mindset, but it's never working. They are still in this firefighting mode. And of course, here is really, what is the question behind it? This is just for instructions. They are not slogans. You need to be translated into governance criteria, decision gates, job descriptions, as I mentioned. In job description, try to get the foresight and the strategic future-oriented and not the firefighter. And of course, in different leadership evaluations, this will be supporting. This is how this operating system for leadership becoming reality. And of course, when we just get a little bit more concrete in this area, you are experienced in this area. It means we have the same tools. As I mentioned earlier, our applications, Agile, PMBox, P5, AI, it is not about the canvas, it's about the painter. Just before this session, Jutta Eckstein was speaking about the topic of Agile. I take it here as the first example. If just we are using Agile in an old operating system, of course, we will have a faster delivery, but we have also the same harm. It's not changing. But we're just applying Agile in the new operating system. Of course, we will experiment on impact, inclusion, and resilience. And this is the way how we see it. The next tool, when I'm just taking, for example, the GPM P5s, I saw it in some discussions with some colleagues, they will just take the P5 as a checklist. But think about it. If you just take it as a default lens, everything will be filtered through this P5, how you can approach this. The same for AI. I was really nicely surprised how much discussions we hear today about the AI. And as I mentioned for you, I was programming, implementing AI machines before we have it, the name from ChatGPT, Gemini, and so on, the whole language models. And of course, you can just have the two views here. Either AI is just as efficiency toy, you have it as a tool, as a toy, or just you can apply it as climate or equity enabler. And all these elements are also related with the data. Of course, with the disclaimer, we hear it from Jutta Eckstein, the whole topic of the ethics. And this is also a little bit the next part. But of course, what is the main question is, what operating system are those tools, what I mentioned here, or what you are using, actually serving in your organization? I know some organizations even still ban AI tools for different reasons. Some others are applying this 100%. But of course, this is a point. Even your operating system need to be regenerative, to be a little bit more powerful to amplify the impact. So after we saw a little bit these directions and how we deal with it, I will go fast through some concrete example how to deal with it. And of course, I mentioned that I'm coming from Tunisia, lived also for 5 years in Saudi Arabia. I am fascinated from the nice desert, Sahara. Most probably you saw in the one or visited even these nice dunes, but we need just something for these dunes, how we lead in these moving dunes. I will not get in the details of how to describe these dunes, but maybe I will take you through some very small elements describing these dunes and what we can learn from it. And this starts about how we see it in our project management, program management, how we learn together to navigate them. It means one very nice element, the landscapes that moves under our feet. Are these moving dunes. Just mirror it to your project, to your activities. What are the landscape moving under your feet? No perfect map means, especially with these dunes, today they are here, tomorrow they are in another position, after tomorrow somewhere else. You cannot just have a map. You have an orientation and agreements for navigating these dunes. And of course, the main important element is the survival depends on reading weak signals. If you had the chance to attend the session this morning or this noon from Donny McNichol and discussion with Jonathan Norman, this part was a very central element, reading weak signals. And we learned as leaders, as project managers, to be very good in reading these weak signals. But as I mentioned previously, most of us don't interpret, don't present, don't say these weak signals very early. And of course, here, this is a very important element, very central element about how we are dealing with this. If you just take these very simple elements, metaphors, as Edward is mentioning, our project looks a lot like this, like what we have here, this moving dunes, and of course, how we are dealing with it. Maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was a little bit better. We have especially some projects with a very nice map, very perfectly map what we can follow. But we know one of the main disruptive elements we have at the moment is really technology and how it's the speed of change. Just reflect on yourself. This year, 2025, how many new technologies, new definitions, new elements, new activities you saw it, you are obliged to apply it, you need to adapt yourself and to go with it. I will take one example. The PMBOK 8 was published 2.5 weeks ago in Phoenix. And even there, the definition of project was changed. And most probably next week on the 11th, I think Pierre will announce the new next and more. And there we will see again a new adapted definition of success. This why just put it there, reflect on it, identify what we need to navigate through these dunes. The first thing, what was always used for the last thousands of years is a compass. It means this was used, applied successfully. We know that the people who used compasses arrived in their destinations. But here, of course, if I'm speaking about regenerative compass, I need a little bit more than just having a compass of northwest, east, south. Maybe I need something in this direction. Maybe I need the 5 directions. No, people, planet, prosperity, products, and process. Joel and Lucilla were discussing this dimension here. Think about it. Think about a little bit more dimensional, high dimensional compass, where we have people, planet, prosperity, products, and process. When we have scope, time, and cost still there, we will not get rid of this. Not yet, maybe in the future, but at least here, the 3 elements are still here, but we have also the value, risk, benefits. Just here, a small invitation to you to stop trying to manage the dunes. Just start. Think on how you are becoming better navigator through these dunes, these changing dunes. But of course, here when we see it, we have more than this compass and dunes and how to move with it. How to move from this praxis? We have successful elements in different areas. How to move from it to get a little bit more and the principle, especially in this momentum, what we have here. It means if I'm asking any one of you, all of us, we know the small praxis that just works or work for sustainability. These elements we know, all of them, we know it. We are using this. We have this always know where it's working, how it's working. But let's just think about it. Why we don't use this to go in the direction of sustainability by default and use this momentum about this small praxis we know to use it, just to have it. Identify which sustainability related practices are already working in your team and they are already accepted, endorsed from your team. Maybe you are not speaking about it daily or maybe is not reflected there, but they are most of the time somewhere. These defaults are either in some templates, some gate criteria, we will see it just later on, but even some performance reviews and the onboarding is just the whole steps, the whole parts of the projects can be used here. This is the momentum what we can use. And just to give you a little bit more in this direction, how to orient yourself here in between, and especially to move on it, just some elements, some upgrades. I will select how we can move from one status to the other. And of course, most probably in our work, depending how we are qualifying our daily work in the project world, in our leadership, depending from it, what is known is we cannot just lead regenerative projects on very exhausted nervous systems. This is why the small steps moving from 2 are going from the so-called addiction to certainty. I need to know that I'm ending my project in this area in this way next week. We need just to move to think about we are comfortable with ambiguity as long as we have the orientation. This is very important. Another point, Eduardo was mentioning this in the opening keywords, the role of the captain. It means we need just to go out from the hero control to shared stewardship. It's functioning, it's working, but it's anchored also in the definitions, how we just have this mindset that regeneration is a collective effort. Of course, CV performance, about legacy of contribution, we need a little bit time for this, but also the next 3 points. Of course, the speed at any cost, This something will be still anchored for, I think, for the next few years in our way, how we are doing the projects, how we are limited with this time. Even if you are moving from predictive to agile or to hybrid, this is still a big part of our work. And of course, moving from I am neutral, and for this topic, this is also going to the responsibility, the commitment, the ownership. This is a very central element here, what we need just to keep in mind. Responsibility for impact, even if it's small impact. If a small impact is there, this is also very important, and not saying like I'm neutral here. And of course, we have sometimes the very nice effect that classifying our reports, classifying our own success as a private convention. We need also here, as leader, as project manager, to move from there, from having this feeling, yes, we closed the program, the project, the activity. It was successful, but I'm still not so convinced about it. We keep it for us, not to blame or ourselves. It's also we keep it to us in different cultures. This is also a shame. It's loss of faith if we are just admit that it was not perfect. It was missing here or there some details. And this is why I'm mentioning this so-called inner upgrade for us. And of course, this upgrade starts inside each leader. But of course, here, when we just see this, we have a definition as leaders. We have a function there. And of course, most of the time we are trying as leaders, as project manager, program managers, to find our answers in frameworks. We are just opening the PMBOK 5, the P5, PMBOK 8th edition, or P5 standards, reporting guides, even best practice. And there we are trying to find out what we can find as solution. But there's still questions only you as leader, as project manager, as decision making persons who can answer this. The first one is just what I am still willing to sacrifice sustainability for. It means, is it political comfort? It is a key client or stakeholders, or I am willing to sacrifice a milestone, or maybe I am still willing to sacrifice my reputation, especially with the particular stakeholders. In my field, most of the time are political stakeholders, ministries, where we have a little bit this balance, or we try to keep this balance. And we have one major element is reputational damage as a very nice framework not to move out of it. This is one question what you as a leadership, you as a leader, you as project manager, program management, the only one who can answer it. No framework, no PMBOK, no P5 can answer this. But of course, also the other one is related of where do I treat sustainability as somewhere else job? I had a nice discussion in Phoenix with some colleagues who are saying, no, it's not in our part as a project management part, it's more in the PMO responsibility. Or no, maybe we have an expert there, which will be there, the possibility to put it there. Is not from the leadership perspective, this is not acceptable. We cannot need, or we cannot afford to redesign what we are doing. Of course, is always here the part what we still need to have and to answer. Another one is also which voices I am as a leader still not listening to in my projects. Maybe local communities, maybe people with disability, frontline staff. I'm just not really taking time to listen to them, or maybe I'm not listening to our junior colleague who see maybe the risk much earlier. We know the discussion. The Gen Z have other views how we are doing things, how we perceive things. And this is also, again, one other question in your direction. What voices are you still not listening to? And the last one is, of course, what will I refuse to normalize in my portfolio? It means, yeah, I hear this sometimes. No, it's a harmful practice if I'm now going to integrate sustainability or regenerative filters in my charters and so on. Or this is stakeholder engagement. This will be not really going in this direction. The ownership, I will lose the ownership there. And of course, this is a part where we just try to deal with it. To how can I just make it more functional in my case? And just to get these few points more or less to applicable part, I will move with one direction. Also, again, very simple operating system level, what we can move for project management. Again, is not a roadmap. We don't have it at the moment in our dunes, movable dunes. It's just a direction of travel where we can this going there. The first one, the easiest one, is related to the gates. It means how you make sustainable not negotiable at investments and, of course, in the charter. It means early, very early in the whole project life cycle to put it as part there. Apply the P5 from day one. This will be easier, especially if the discussions, brainstorming starts there and the team know it. I'm just starting a new big program these days, and this was one part what we have discussed. The team started discussing this, and of course we are the champion to go to the meetings, and then in these meetings we are just announcing that we don't have enough time to discuss what we are aimed or plan to discuss. We have always this restriction of time, and this is a little bit apart what we are going to try to leave to embrace these discussions and have enough time for these discussions. But of course, the second one is also already here and there in different projects. I know this is also in different activities integrated. We are applying this in our company since years, is what I'm calling or labeling here as lab. Treat just one flagship project as a regenerative lab. Try something. Try to put it there. Of course, from other sides come, again, the voices of costs, resources, time, objectives. Believe me, you will find these small niches here and there to have the possibility to reflect on it. So, and the last one is the celebration, is of course what we mentioned together in different sessions, but even also here is how we are defining and how we are celebrating the success and especially the long-term values here. So, and now just coming to conclude the keynote speech, I will refer a little bit to this nice metaphor mentioned by Joe Dobson. Of course, I mentioned we need to just move to this so-called foresight, to have it a little bit foresight instead of firefighting. But of course, before getting there, we need just getting from insights to default. This is one step what we have there. And for this step, again, you learned, I love the 3 points. what we just think, what we have done today together in this Sustainability Summit 2025, just to remember it as a part where we flip the OS, where just today, this week, next week, depending when you have time to reflect about it, but as soon as possible, reflect on one operating system rule. You remember I mentioned 3 that you want to rewrite or update in your context. And of course, most of the time, what is working the best, share it with one colleague. Just share it and say, okay, I heard about this rule. I'm trying to update it, write it. I'm not 100% convinced. What do you think about it? Do it. I'm used to do this when I'm drinking coffee with a colleague or a tea, but this is also a little bit a very important element. And of course, keep in mind, sustainability by default start with the decision. And my last word, and I see Tim is coming. I have one last word, Tim. Please give me the 1 second to do it. The last word from my side, what we are doing here and what we are asked to do. We are not here to predict the future. This we will not be able to do it. No one was able to do it. But we are here just to decide together how we show up in it, how prepared we show up in it together. So, and my last word is thank you very much, everyone, for this last 45 minutes. And just let us just continue the conversation. Tim, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. And let's keep the conversation going. We've got about 5 minutes for some questions. And one in particular I like from Avian, and she's asking, she's saying she enjoyed your presentation and moving from practice to principle momentum, but she's, I think, got a concern and asked for your advice on the big challenges for mega projects, particularly those which are doing sustainable transformation, and I'm familiar with those myself because I'm very passionate about decarbonization projects. Yeah. And she mentions power-hungry data centers, AI data centers, water-hungry data centers as well, gigantic wind and solar farms, green hydrogen initiatives, all need to be done sustainably. What do you think needs to be done to make sure those are sustainable and from a project management point of view and ensuring climate justice?
The most important element for it, be aware exactly what Avian was mentioning or you are mentioning. Be aware this is a topic we need to think about it. Just to give you an example, if the people will remember the size of few megabytes, it was a little bit big, took a lot of electricity, and it was not really hand in the hand, but there was some smart, innovative, very good people who thought, okay, this is a problem, we need to solve it. And after the years, we have the terabytes there. This will be exactly the same element, the same answer also for this giga big, let me say it, at the moment, electricity and water consuming elements. This is something what will be becoming better in the future. We know that there is some works in this direction, from even having the so-called clean energy for this electricity, and then we have the so-called zero net element on it. But of course, if we are just sitting at the moment here in our status and see it, we need the patience and we need just the support, be aware about it as a problem. The half of the solution to be aware about it. And of course, the other problem is we don't know what we don't know. This is why if we get it there, it will be perfect.
That's great. So, and I think you've sort of answered one of the other questions that I was posing there around being sustainable in terms of our operating system as well. So we need to sort of start looking to draw to a close. I have to say, I loved some of the analogies you gave. The vision of managing in the sand dunes, a moving landscape. And actually, my thought was, well, actually, we need to look after the landscape as well. We need to look after the environment as we manage our projects.
Yeah.
So I guess in summary, I think the question it's left me, and maybe for all of us to be thinking about, is what is our operating system? How is sustainability being embedded in what we do? But also what our team and our organizations do. How is sustainability being embedded in that? But not only that, how is it being embedded in our country and at the level of the UN as well? How is that? And we see some of that with the recent COP in Belém in Brazil, but there's more to do.
Exactly. These two events 3 weeks ago, and I had the two buffer slides for it. The COP, this was one of the really results, impactful results, but of course we had just in parallel the so-called World Social Summit in Doha. It is the second one, and the first one was 30 years ago in Copenhagen. And these both events, totally agree with you, Tim. This just giving us a little bit the directions about how this climate resilience is very, very narrow and in relationship with the social justice together.
Yeah. And one final question has come in from Agunyo, which is the challenge of balancing short-term pressure on cost and schedule and delivering on time with long-term outcomes. And that's something that's I've always believed passionately, certainly when my involvement with energy projects, oil and gas projects, you need to consider the operating outcome, the safe and reliable operation, and the sustainable operation. So,
yes.
So with that, I think. So with that, I think we should say thank you to the audience. Thank you to you. Big thank you to your summarizing your thoughts, reminding us about our operating system, and also bringing together a lot of the points we've had during the day, which I missed myself.
Exactly.
Which was good to hear from you. So thank you again, and we can hand back over to our master of big master of ceremonies, Merv, and the floor is yours to give us our call to action and close. Thank you.